This is Remote Ruby.
Have you any remote idea as to the meaning of the word?
All right, rant time. Let's hear it.
All right, so in all of computing, right, we have like success and failure, binary, true, false, right?
Okay.
So I have this problem. This week, I spent the entire week working on developer experience related tasks at Podia. Okay, so that's the context.
Yep.
So
Good.
A lot of GitHub
Good.
actions, a lot of thinking about tests, a lot of stuff like that. And one of the tasks was to fix our Slack ops bot for Heroku. So we deployed a Heroku, and Jamie likes to deploy using like this like /promote command. It wasn't working. After I made several major refactorings of our CI work months ago using composite actions and shared workflows and better caching and this and that, I broke this ability to promote with Slack. Let me tell you why, Chris. Okay.
Yes.
So I found out why. The reason why I couldn't promote is because Heroku said that not all of the checks had passed. And I looked in Heroku. There's a setting that you can set that says only deploy when checks have passed.
And this is connected to your CI.
GitHub actions.
Yeah. Do they
Yes.
have their own built-in CI thing?
Heroku does, but we don't use it. They do have the ability to connect to GitHub though to see if your GitHub checks have passed.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I'm like, oh, well, the checks didn't pass. That's odd. So I went to see what had happened here. And what had happened was all the checks had passed and 2 were skipped.
Okay.
And Heroku marked those skipped checks as failures and would not deploy because of it. Now, I want you to explain to me why skipped is marked as failure. Go.
I don't know. I mean, thinking of it in terms of my test suite, if I skip a test, that is not a failure. That is a please ignore. So
And
I would
that's
expect
literally why you use skip.
Yeah.
To say, I don't care whether this is successful or failing, ignore it. It's not even part of the situation.
Yeah.
So
So it treats those as failures.
It treats those as failures. Yes.
Weird.
Yes. It was kind of frustrating just because I was like, surely there's a way to change this. There's a setting somewhere. Maybe there's a branch protection rule, maybe this or maybe that. No. The only option is to have those failed things be marked successful instead of skipped. I mean, I said failed. I meant skipped. It has to mark those skipped jobs as successful no matter what. It's unfortunate because it kind of violates the way I wanted this to work. When you see that a job is skipped, it's skipped. I skip jobs on certain situations. Like I built a thing that will notify Slack when the main branch is failing. And this is where this all started. So that was broken. I fixed it recently. And now I get a message today. And so yesterday I did this thing and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to mark these as successful, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So what I basically did is instead of skipping the job at the top level of the job ID in a GitHub action object, I skipped every step of the job. So it's just empty job, but that marks it as successful, which is whatever.
Yeah.
Then today I get a message and it's like, yo, main failed and we didn't get a message. Why is that? And because that Slack action is supposed to because I had to change the condition. So instead of basically the top level of the job, I was saying if failure. So if any of the other jobs have failed, run this.
Yeah.
And because I could no longer do that, I had to put that condition inside as a step. And I believe now it doesn't know what I'm referencing. This is going to be a pain for me, specifically because now I'm going to have to keep track of the state of those jobs, which you can do with GitHub jobs, but the syntax is a little confusing to me. It's convoluted. It involves outputs. You have to track these outputs. We use Knapsack. So it's just there's queues, there's containers. It was all fine until Heroku had to do this to me. And I just don't understand why a skip is marked as a failure. It makes me a little upset because now I have this expanding list of things I've had to do to get around it.
Yeah, that's the worst when you run into some of those and you're like, oh gosh, I have to do all of these workarounds now to do the thing that could have been so simple and should have been so simple. Are there any docs on Heroku about that? I wonder.
I looked, I couldn't find anything. There's a setting, it just literally says, I think I actually wrote it down. Yeah, only promote when checks have passed. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I figured possibly it was like, oh, maybe GitHub is doing this. Maybe GitHub has like a branch protection rule.
Sure,
maybe we have some weird configuration that's left over from like, things past. And I was like, Jason, I need you to send me a list of all the branch protection rules in GitHub. And he's like, we have none. And I'm like, dang it. The easy solution is gone. I was really hoping there was going to be something in GitHub I could change this, even though Mark skipped as passing, but because there's no branch protection rules, that means that it doesn't care because it's happening in Heroku.
Fun.
Yeah, very fun.
Brooke was asking how you took down production.
No, that was...
Did I just hit some emotional thing there?
No, I don't get emotional. Like, I took down production, we hit rollback, and the site came back up.
You didn't blow up the database? No,
we fixed it. Like, I joked about it because I don't feel any sort of way about it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone at work cares. Not they don't care, but it's like, oh, you did bad. It's not like that. I don't feel that in any way whatsoever.
I usually just feel bad because I'm like, I need to get this up for the customers, the users.
I did feel bad. But because we just rolled it back so fast, that just came back.
Yeah, it is one of those things that like probably as a junior, you're probably freaking out about like people are judging me. I took the site down, yada, yada. And it's like, no, actually, we don't care as long as we get it back up and we're happy to help you get it back up and running.
Yeah.
Our concern is that our users are happy, not that we're, shame on you. You did something wrong. Nah, you'd be surprised how many things we do wrong. That's how it goes.
I feel like everyone makes mistakes. And code is such a fickle thing to me. It's, look, people deploy bad code. That happens constantly. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So as long as you have ways to fix it, then it shouldn't be a huge blame thing.
Agreed.
That's like a good sign of a culture. Like yesterday, and they were like, dude, don't worry about it. I was like, I'm not, because I know I have nothing to worry about, right? Like I already know that they're not judging me. And they just wanted to reiterate, you're fine. I can't get too deep into it. Basics of what happened is I made a change to a gem and I never restarted the app. And that's where the issue was. Worked fine. I just didn't even think to restart the app, but I should have. I should have because of something that I've experienced in the past with this. And I should have done a better job at testing that. But it seemed like it was fine.
Yeah.
And I was focusing on the wrong thing as well when I was testing it.
That'd be kind of a cool thing to have like a after bundle command that's just hit temp restart, touch that file, local development will get restarted automatically. That would be actually pretty handy to have built in.
Yeah.
Then you might not make that mistake, which is like a very common mistake for beginners because they'll like install device and they're like, it's broken. The device for and whatever else doesn't work. And it's like, yes, but that's because you didn't restart. That could be actually a pretty decent little PR
and that would be,
or something maybe.
That would be really simple to do.
So simple. Yeah. Interesting. Maybe I will tackle that. That sounds like a fun little project or like an experiment.
Hooks, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I know the Rails generators have an after bundle thing as well, but that would be not related to the bundle hook or something. But yeah, bundler hooks.
I'm sure bundler has hooks.
Ruby bundler hooks. How to write a bundler plugin. Before installation hook is a
there you go
closed issue. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. There's like before install, after install, and then there's one PR for adding hooks from 2016 that was closed and not merged.
Well, if Rails is able to do it somehow.
But they're like the generators are like a script of steps.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there may be something in there like after install. It would be.
Can't you just put Ruby in your gem file?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to like run because it's going to hit the gem lines, and I assume those immediately execute, like downloading, installing it. Maybe you could put it at the end of the file, and that might just work sort of by accident or whatever. But
that's what, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what you could do? Well, I was going to say you could use like a bin stub and then add that as an extra stub, but then you'd have to use the bin stub every time.
And that's the problem because
forget.
Everyone's got aliases and
yeah.
But I always alias to the bin stub. Like I have a bundler ZSH function that will try to use the bin stub first.
Yeah.
And then bundle exec and then just run the gem. That's
smart. That's a good way to do it too. It's wise. Wise man once said.
Seems like an interesting little problem. There's got to be something in bundler to indicate that process is executed.
Yeah, or like has finished installing or
surely
something. I'm not sure.
I mean, there's got to be bundle internal at minimum to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like bundler has to know when it's done.
I mean, you could chain the command on the command line. You could like alias bundler or bundle to bundle and touch temp restart, but if it could just be a little hook at the end of the bundle, the gem file that gets executed, that'd be ideal. I guess you only want to run that too if it's successful. So, you know, it wouldn't necessarily afterwards, but I don't know. That'll be something I will probably look into a little bit more after this. It's just a simple, like, it could be a tiny quality of life thing. And it might just get ignored in some cases if you don't have the temp restart plugin for Puma, but whatever. Who cares?
I feel like the easiest thing you could ever do, though, is just use a Git hook.
Probably. Yeah.
Just what I've learned in 2023 is that a little bit of bash can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. It's handy. Very handy. Earlier today, I was talking to Kent on a screen share, and I was like thinking about Colin's PR to Rails. And the idea behind his was like the trouble generally in Rails for beginners stems from it, and even for not beginners, stems from instance variables responding as nil, whether or not you've assigned any value to them. Like you don't define an instance variable like you do a local variable. It's not going to throw an error if you're trying to access an instance variable that was never created. So I was like, you know, it'd be nice is if we had sort of a little debug thing to print out all your instance variables in your views. And it's like, here's everything that the controller set. And there's actually instance values, which is a helper that active support, I believe, adds. And it can actually retrieve. So you can use instance variables to get the names of all the instance variables that have been defined. And then you can use as instance values to get a hash of all of those with the values as the keys, or the values as the values, the names as the keys. And there are a few in there that are not what you really need, which are like the lookup context or the routes or underscore config, which are things that like Rails sets internally in your controllers. You don't need to know those. But I was like, we could just use instance values and slice off all of those that like Rails sets internally. And then you're left with at user, at blog post, at comments, whatever your controller is doing. And it's like kind of a cool little thing because you could just spit that out and then bam, you've got confirmation that here's the variables that I do have, which I thought could be neat just for beginners or something. Those are really kind of the edges that are like hard to notice as a long-term developer. Did you see that DHH was doing a live stream today of the Campfire source code? Some of the stuff that he talked about in there was like pretty interesting, where it's, look, we're working on a bots API for this, and you can send a curl request, you know, to send over a message that has a file attached, and we'll just take the file and add it to active storage. But there's no mechanism really to go from HTTP uploaded file or whatever the class name is from rack and then convert that to an active storage blob and stuff. And he was showing off a few of those edge cases that were like, because we built Campfire and we get a new experience at building a Rails application in a unique environment too, we've come up with a bunch of little things like Thruster, which is a Go service that helps with sending files for downloads and whatnot, and SSL as well, I believe, and some cool stuff that they're like, oh, we've discovered those rough edges that like we've happily not had to deal with on Hay or Basecamp or whatever we're building. But now that we've built a brand new Rails app, we see actually this is kind of painful. So let's go build some tools and make that easier for everyone. It's such a cool thing to do and then spot those and then come up with ways to fix them. I love that. It just happened to cross my mind this morning while we were talking about debugging code. And it's, well, last night before I gave up for the day, I was like copying a helper from one app to another because we're upgrading Go Rails as a really old code base to run on Jumpstart Pro. So I was copying over some I18N stuff and we had a helper file that I needed to copy over and it was just blowing up and couldn't figure it out last night in like the 15 minutes I had before I had to go pick up Jackson. Look at it this morning and it's like, oh, you named that file helpers, not underscore helper. Plural.
No.
And I was like, well, that explains that. But it sure really had me confused for 20 minutes last night. And it's those kind of things that you're like, man, I remember as a beginner, I did not care to pay attention to plural or not. And if you were in a controller and you say, give me all the blog posts, and you assign it to a blog instance variable, but in the views, you're like, oh, render out all the blog posts and it's plural. Well, you're going to be in for some very confusing times. And Kent was saying too, like, those are times where you can't see something that tiny of a bug. And you're just like, well, I guess the whole thing's borked. I'm going to delete it all and try it again. And that second time, you might be more careful and then pluralize properly. But you won't realize that was your issue the whole time because you just had to throw it all away and start from scratch. Anyways.
You made me think about a lot of things, but I'm going to go back to the thought I had at the very beginning. Do you use the new debug gem?
No, not like I want to. I still just drop into binding IRB pretty much every time. I need to.
Binding IRB,
you can connect with it very easily or something.
I thought if you have it installed, binding IRB would use the debug gem.
It might.
Do you
at
have
least has like a hook
in
to
IRB?
I think I had to turn that off because.
Okay, then you are using it, I think.
Okay.
As long as it's installed in your app, I'm almost positive that IRB
pretty sure
binding IRB and binding.break both default use the debug gem.
Okay. Because I remember it was like the whenever gem or something when you open up the Rails console and you type something and it went to autocomplete, it would just blow up because of some method missing or something that was going on in that gem that wasn't wired up properly.
The autocomplete in Heroku was problematic. I don't know why, but we had to turn that off almost instantly. It was a nightmare. I don't think it was the debug gem's fault at all. But just make that very clear.
It's one of those things where like the code and the libraries, it was maybe never used or whatever, but it wasn't designed for that use case, which intentionally it should have worked fine, but because they didn't expect it, they were like, oh, we weren't properly responding. We may have been just responding true to everything. And then when something asks for it, it's, well, you said you respond to it, but we tried to call the method and you blew up. And somebody had sort of not been thorough enough or whatever in some little area that was basically unused until that. That happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. So the other week, Jamie posted in our Slack and he's like, I'm getting rid of pry, mostly because of the fact that like the debug gem has all the same features for the most part. There's one feature that it doesn't have that I use a lot. I also have just used pry for so long. I've never used IRB. I always use pry. That was the first thing that they gave me when I started my first Rails job. We use pry here, and pry has been my life. I love pry.
I used pry for ages.
I love pry. In pry, you can CD into objects and into classes and things. You can't do that with the debug gem. That would be a really nice thing to have because that's the only thing that it doesn't have that I'm like, I use this a lot. I use this all the time.
Yeah, I remember using that. And I guess most of the time I just see it in a similar fashion because I'll end up like, I put 2 levels of binding IRBs, like one at the top level and then one inside a class. And so it shows the context in IRB that like, okay, now you're inside of this object that's a user model or something. It's like similar, but much more manual.
Right.
Because it's almost just, I guess, CD into the object is almost like, instance eval and then throw a binding IRB inside of it or something.
I have no idea
Almost.
what it is, but it's beautiful.
Some of that stuff feels like genuine magic.
It does. It's like a power tool that like once you pick up, like I feel like you can just use constantly.
I just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, honeybadger.io. Do you currently use one service for uptime monitoring, another for error tracking, another for status pages, and yet another to monitor your cron jobs and microservices? Paying for all of those services separately may be costing you more than you think. If you want to simplify your stack and lower your bills, it's time to check out Honeybadger. Honeybadger combines all of those services into one easy platform. It's everything you need to keep production healthy and your customers happy. Best of all, Honeybadger is free for small teams and setup takes as little as 5 minutes. Get started today at honeybadger.io. That's honeybadger.io. Like I tell people all the time, like, learn to debug. If there's one skill to have, it's not testing. It's not whatever else. It's learn how to debug, because that is going to be the most valuable thing you could ever learn in programming. Because the people who know how to debug and know how to go find the answer don't waste days Googling and just like flailing around and asking for help. And you're just kind of like useless if you don't know how to like, okay, let's break it down. We were calling this. We were going to attempt to use this gem. This gem is expecting us to give it something here. What is the value? Oh, that's weird. What we gave it is not at all what it expected. The docs seem to say that's possible, but actually it's not. How in the world would you ever Google that stuff? You have to just get super lucky rolling the dice that you typed in the right magic keywords and end up on whatever Stack Overflow post or some obscure blog post most of the time when you get into some tricky situation. So debugging to me is like the number one skill to learn, I think, at least from my experience.
You have to have a set of fallbacks, I think. Like you have to like build up a set of like, okay, well, when I can't figure out the problem in this manner, then I know I have this other way I do things and I'm going to try that.
Exactly.
And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to try this other thing. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try this other thing. But you have to build those up like almost over time.
Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of a trivial issue that you're running into and you're like, I probably just didn't read the docs right or something. And like you start there. Then there are other times where it's like, I know this probably isn't an issue with my code and I'm going to go to the source of it or something. You're able over time to judge like, how deep do I need to go down this rabbit hole? And you've got those different layers of actually this one I could Google. And the way that I Google it is important too, where you're like, I have to type in Rails bundler, whatever, after install hook or something. Like, the terminology has to be just right sometimes to get the right answer when you search.
Isn't AI going to fix that, Chris?
I mean, it's actually really good at that kind of stuff because that's what it does is predicts the next word that you're going to ask it or whatever. So it's really kind of ideal for surfacing those obscure things, which is good. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't understand what it's looking at. And that's what your job is as a developer. Otherwise, we don't need you. We can have AI generate stuff if it was able to understand the intentions. It's doing its best guess at it, which is good and very helpful, but still needs the old human-powered hamster wheel over here.
You just reminded me of this genius idea I had yesterday, and I'm going to share it with you.
On the podcast?
Dude,
is this a $1 billion idea, though?
It's not a $1 billion idea, but I feel like this is a really smart idea. So
I'm in.
You've started using Copilot in VS Code a little bit, haven't you?
I have.
We talked about that recently. So I don't know if you have seen this recently, but they've added / and like pound commands for certain things. You can use the pound command and give it a file. And the way GitHub Copilot works is it like uses context that it builds up in addition to the context from all of GitHub's data that it's trained on. And it doesn't have full context to your entire repo, right? Because that would be a massive vector. So uses specific context, like what tabs you have open and things like that, or you can specifically give it context. The other day I was thinking about this. I was like, one thing that you could do that's a pain to do is I feel like, oh, I have to like explain certain things to it. Like it doesn't know like, oh, if I'm in my model, like I want it to know about other tables or other things. And like, then I got to pass it all in, or then I got to do this or that. And it can be a pain to not have all that right context. But because you can pass it a file as context, this is what you can do. You can create a file, like maybe throw in your temp folder and call it context.md. And inside of that file, write maybe a project is what you're working on. If you created this for a new branch, you can write your project objective, your goals, certain styles you want to adhere to, certain coding patterns you want to follow. Maybe you want it to always like output a test after you have it do a certain thing. Or maybe you want to tell it whenever I do this, I want you to output the test or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also give it information about maybe the models or the schemas that you're working with so that it knows, okay, well, now I have this extra stuff. So every time you're using it for that branch, you could have access to that.
That's handy.
Just instantly pass it in.
Yeah, that's a good idea because then you kind of have that repeatable thing where it's, yes, I don't want to have to explain to you that we've extracted these associations and features into concerns and yada, 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 like working on this stuff. And this is how it works. And it will always be this way. And we can just reference that. That's a really good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
You could also tell it, I always want you to adhere to Sandy Metz's patterns whenever you provide me code. Or I always want you to write code like DHH would.
Right.
Things like that. That can save you like typing. It can also make sure.
Is this your like mischievous plan to extract the like hey source code? And you're like, pretend that we're building an email client and it needs to be in DHH's style. It needs to have an inbox.
The DHH style prompt that I have, it sounds slick, but sometimes it gives me like an ego check and I don't like that because sometimes I'll be like, I'd use it for renaming a lot. I'll be like, rename this method like DHH would. And sometimes it's, yo, DHH wouldn't write it like this, bro. And I'm like, bruh. And I can't even help you, dog.
Compute. This is not what he would do at all.
Yeah. It's like, you need to rewrite it like this if you want me to do that for you. Like,
that's funny. That's great. I love that. That was one of the things that he talked about a little bit on the live stream. He mentioned like two of the hardest problems in programming are like naming things and cache invalidation. And genuinely, that is one of the things that I appreciate the most, watching them share how they code. Cause it's like, you know, they use the involvements for an enum or whatever. And it's like how people are involved in whatever it was. It's just like, I never would have used that term. Like I would have used something different, simpler, whatever, just something I'm like used to using. But I really appreciate when I read that code, because one of the things that I downloaded the source code for Campfire and was like kind of whelmed, not underwhelmed by it, but I was whelmed because there was nothing complex in there, which was, I was like excited to see what's a really hard problem that they solved in here or whatever. But that was like kind of the beauty of it too, which was like they've solved everything pretty elegantly where everything is named well and pretty straightforward. And that's the best takeaway of that source code or the code base. Like it is well organized. I think like the autocomplete was some of the most complicated. Probably most of the things that were complicated seemed like JavaScript-y things, because the Rails stuff was like super straightforward and elegant and just great. And I was kind of like, where's the meaty bits? And I kept opening models and controllers and like, there aren't any meaty bits here. And I was like, dang it, this sucks. I was hoping for some of that. But then continuing to read through it, you're like, actually, that's the best part about this. There is nothing messy in here. It's all pretty organized and sort of well named. There was another term he mentioned in the thing today that I can't remember what it was. It was something similar to involvements or whatever, but I was trying to cook lunch and then it was going pretty fast on some of these things, and I'm trying to listen, but also not catch the house on fire or whatever.
Right. Understandable.
Just could totally process both at once, but that's all recorded. So if anybody did buy Campfire and wants to watch that and missed it, you'll be able to. So no worries. And I think I assume any new customers of Campfire will be able to access that too. So you didn't miss out. And he pre-asked for questions on Twitter or whatever. So even us in the chat didn't really get to ask any questions that he addressed there. And I mean, like he said, it could have been 10 hours long of there's so many goodies to kind of talk about.
I was watching a conference talk the other day, and the speaker did something genius where at the very beginning of the talk, they're like, at the bottom of the screen, you will see a link to a Google Doc. Throughout the talk, if you have questions, add them to this document. And at the end, I will go through. And I was like, that is a really smart idea for not having to use the chat for that purpose and like cluttering up the chat and also still having a record of those. And then I don't know, you can turn those ideas into blog posts and things. I thought that was really smart.
That is a good idea. You've got such a limited time that it's a great way to continue the conversation longer and stuff and whatever. I'm excited because I get to go to Australia this year, give a talk.
Dude.
What a great excuse to go to Australia.
I want to go to Australia. When is this conference?
Middle of April, like second week of April. I think the 11th and 12th.
I'll be in Vermont.
You could be in Australia, though.
I could be. Almost had the opportunity to go last year and it fell through at the last moment, but I would love to go to Australia.
Yeah. We were looking at flights and stuff and spent the extra money to do premium economy because you're stuck in an airplane for 16 hours or whatever. It's 24 hours of travel with 2 short ones and then the long one that's 16 hours. So we were like, yeah, let's spend a little extra money. But it went from like most of the airlines went from $1,300, which was very reasonable for a flight that long, because that was like what it costs to go to Europe or something.
Right.
But then you go one level up to premium economy and it was like $4,000 a person.
Whoa.
And then business class was like $15,000 a person.
No.
And I was like, hold up. We ended up finding a deal that was very reasonable in comparison. And I was like,
with who?
Delta.
Spirit Airlines.
Yeah. I feel like we got lucky because I was like, just looking at the regular main cabin prices, and I was like, this is pretty affordable for how long of a trip you're doing. And then I was like, oh my God. And then we were scared too, because it was like, Brooke and I are both going, the first flight I clicked on that was a reasonable price was like, yes, we have premium economy and it's all middle seats. It was like, so you can't sit together and you got to be stuck between 2 strangers. And I was like, we'll find another flight or we'll fly main cabin because no, thank you.
Dude, we'll take a boat, not the middle seat. And not everyone understands how the middle seat etiquette works. It's just, no, I can't.
Oh, well, and you're on a flight that long. So like the person on the side is probably going to be sleeping at some point. And if you got to get up and pee, you got to then interrupt them and wake them up and whatever. It's terrible. I hate middle seats.
I had one of the worst experiences of my life not long ago where we boarded. I sat down. I was like, oh crap, I kind of have to pee. And I was like, dang it. And the guys piled in beside me. The guy on the row passed out immediately.
You're stuck.
And we hadn't even taken off yet. This guy is dead. Yeah. And I do not like waking people up. This is just a long-standing trauma for me. I know exactly where it began. I do not like waking people up. And I was now in a situation.
Yeah. Oh, man. I always find that funny where it's like you just got on the airplane and you immediately have to go to the bathroom in the airplane.
That's never, because I pre-planned that, dude. I don't know what was happening. It's never happened to me before or since. It's just this one time.
I swear this never happened to me before.
It so happened that we had to deboard that plane for some random reason, so I got lucky.
It wasn't you?
No, it wasn't me.
Like, we have a bathroom situation. We got to deboard the plane.
A serious situation down here.
Did you submit any talks to any other conferences? Because I feel like everything is just due right now. Even Rails World, it feels due way earlier than I would expect, but maybe not all of them are kind of last minute.
I wanted to. I did not have a great January and I am really burnt out. And so I don't have anything in me to give.
Addition to that. Yeah.
No. So I have nothing in me to give. Like I don't have the energy to complete these CFPs. I would love to, but
There's always next year. There's always another conference.
Exactly.
There's so many conferences this year. Marco is going to be very busy.
I hope so, dude. Good for him.
We'll see what his record gets up to this year. It's going to be a lot. I know it.
I'm excited.
I did one talk to several Ruby conferences, and then like a modified, it'll probably be an entirely different talk. It is an entirely different talk, but similar concept of talk in general that I'll end up doing. I ended up submitting to RailsConf. I'm just going to do the one, because if it doesn't get accepted, then I will be enjoying the conference and not worrying about giving a talk. But I figured, why not? I applied to do the scholars and guides as soon as I open this year. So that's like my backup or whatever. And I may not do that if I get accepted as a talk, just so I'm not like double duty, tons of extra stuff going on. And there's always no shortage of scholars, but usually it's limited by the amount of guides that applied. So hopefully that number gets up there this year. The new RailsConf committee, all phenomenal people. I can't wait for
you see my homegirl Julie on there? I was like, yo.
Yeah. No, it's a really great crew this year. Very excited. I think it's going to be very good. So I'll just hang out in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going yet, but I'm leaning more and more towards going.
Well, I will miss you if you don't go. So I feel like you have to go.
I feel like I'll most certainly be at Rails World.
Okay, well, I will be there too. So
yeah,
that's a bare minimum.
I'm definitely.
If you want to come up to
Rails
Chicago,
World.
Should do that.
I was talking to someone recently about that.
I was telling Colin he needs to drive up to St. Louis, and then we'll take the train.
So I was like, dude, I'll just fly to St. Louis, and then we'll all take the train.
Oh, that'd be awesome. We should do that. Well, if anybody's listening and wants to join us doing that, we should. That would be fun.
Train gang.
There was, I know, at least a startup weekend type of thing that was like, we're going to hop on a train and go like across the country and just like hack on a product ideas and stuff. Because the trains aren't fast. The one, at least from here to Chicago, is as slow as driving because they stop at every little town along the way. But you can get one of the ones that skips. It's not like an express train or whatever. It skips the majority of stops. So it's considerably faster, but yeah, you would expect that it would be faster, but it's because they stop and onboard people and everything a bunch.
Well,
it's not as much.
I don't know if I have a terribly high opinion of high-speed transit in this country, so I don't know if that really surprises me.
We don't even really have high-speed transit.
We have maps of high-speed transit. Dude, you want to see a map of high-speed transit could look like? We got a heck of a lot of those, but
yeah, there's a lot of talk and not a lot of building on that
I know.
stuff.
The examples I've seen is, there would be like a high-speed rail and it would go like through Phoenix up into California. And I'm like, dude, that would be awesome for me. And I just know for a fact that will never happen because this country can't do it.
Yeah. I can't remember Hyperloop. They were talking about doing that between Kansas City and St. Louis or something, which would be killer.
Is that, it wasn't Hyperloop Elon Musk's tunnel?
It was like something like that. I don't know that it was necessarily a tunnel, but they were trying to do some sort of high-speed rail, but wasn't traditional.
So he put a tunnel somewhere in California, in LA or something.
The Boring Company stuff. And
I get it, bro. I've heard it looked like a nightmare. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's LA. It looked like a literal scene out of a dude. Just, anyone with a brain could look at that and be like, problem number one, you're in a tunnel.
This is how we build the future, though.
Yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah. Railroad trip up to Chicago would be fun.
I would be down for a railroad trip.
I always, as a kid, loved going on the Cog Railway or whatever that's like very steep and zigzags up the mountain. I remember doing that. Actually, a few years ago, we did something Durango in Colorado. You go through like the mountainside and stuff. It's awesome. Cool. Except we sat in it's a coal-powered engine, and it's like we sat in the outdoor one, and oh my God, you were just covered in soot afterwards. Yeah. It seemed great where you're like, oh, so nice, so beautiful out here, and then just smoke in your face the whole time.
I was a junior engineer there was a rail museum where I'm from, and I was all about the trains, dude. I had a little engineer
Hell
hat,
yeah.
a little locomotive whistle, dude. I was all about it.
Yeah. I was all about Thomas the Tank Engine when I was a kid.
Yep, same.
Yeah.
Thomas goes hard.
Have you seen that video of the mod for Skyrim where they replace the dragons with Thomas the Tank Engine?
I've seen a lot of weird Thomas the Tank Engine videos over the years, and I watch all of them. I'll have to send you a video after this. It's called "We Like to Party."
You'll have to leave this in the show notes, actually.
Yeah, I'll get the link. I can't explain it. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. That's all I can say about it.
Good.
Some people will find this hilarious. The rest of you, I'm sorry.
That's my favorite stuff on the internet is like things you come across and I cannot possibly explain this, and that's why it's so funny. This does not compute in any sort of realistic, there's no logic to it. It's just weird, and that's the best. That's why it's so good.
Yes. Quality of the meme. It can.
I'm going to find the Donkey Skyrim video with Thomas the Tank Engine.
I feel like they've kind of gotten close to what I want, but no one's gotten exactly what I want. I want an AI meme generator, and I want it to do several things. I want it to make the memes. I want it to like have really good search for memes. I'm tired of trying to figure out how to find memes on my computer and my Photos app. Sick of it, dude. I need easier access to memes, and that is my biggest problem.
Oh boy.
Why don't I have easier access to memes? I wrote the other day a workflow in Alfred with Fuzzy Finder to try and find my memes easier.
Oh geez.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm off next week. I'm going to solve my meme problem.
This sounds like a problem needing to be solved.
It is. So you wrote several CFPs. Do you have any advice for people who are also writing them right now?
Yeah, I was talking a bunch with Cody Norman about this because he submitted several and we were going back and forth trading ideas and advice and whatever. I think the best advice that we came up with was to make sure your title for your talk has puns in it and trying to entertain the reviewers. Not serious advice there, but we did enjoy that. And then honestly, think about they're trying to accomplish with their conference. What's the purpose? Do they want to emphasize beginners, or do they want to emphasize like what's new in Rails or Ruby or whatever it is? And then think about the audience they're trying to attract and try and find something that slots into that. So like in the past, I've talked about things that are, action text has these attachables and mentions and other things that you can build with that. It's like nobody's talking about that. So that's a good topic to pitch because it brings something new that it doesn't matter if they're beginners or intermediate devs or seniors or whatever. Any skill level would be open to like potentially learning something from that talk, which is good. So that's an idea that if you can find something obscure about Rails that you can explain or dig into and learn it so that you can explain it in your talk, that's really great. If you want to focus on beginners, then make sure that you explain that this is why I want to give this talk. This is how it's going to help the audience, those types of things. And then we were also talking about sort of the like, in some cases, the CFPs are anonymously reviewed, and that you want to be able to show that I have an outline, I have a plan. This is what it's going to talk about. This is what people should take away from the talk. This is who the intended audience is for. They're going to talk about what they're looking for, talks at the conference, and they'll probably have told you what tracks are going to be available. So you want to find a track that you want to fit in and pitch a talk for that track and the audience that would be interested in that stuff. And then also, like, if you can show that you would be a good speaker, that's super helpful. It's probably more helpful for the anonymous submissions where you can say, look, I'm Chris Oliver. I've made 600 some screencasts. I can give a talk. You should feel fairly confident in accepting me that I will deliver something at least decent, technically or whatever. And that's sort of like the thing you want to convey to that's like, it's going to be entertaining or educational or whatever it is, and that you could do a good job delivering that. And that can be explained in your outline or whatever you include in your notes and your pitch to the committee that's reviewing those. I think it was Heroku might actually ask for like a 1 to 2 minute video of you giving a talk or something. So if you've got a lightning talk or whatever, they can watch 30 seconds of that and be like, oh, great. He's not super nervous on stage and losing it up there, doing a good job, has a good demeanor and cadence and whatever. It's helpful for them just to see a few seconds of you and how you explain things or whatever it is. And so if you can do that and show like, I've done this before or whatever, it can just be another little check in the box that they're evaluating these random CFPs from hundreds of people. And they got to figure out, especially probably hard if it's anonymous, where it's could be a great sounding talk, but it's not the right person for it. And you can also be honest. Like, I've never given a talk before. I'm nervous, but I would love to do this. That's another selling point too, where they can say, okay, we would love to give you the shot, your first conference talk and stuff. Colin submitted his CFP to Rails and was nervous about it and was like tweeted about considering clicking that withdraw button. We're going to make sure he does not do that. As a first time submitter, you're scared. And that can be a good thing for them to know too, that you're like, hey, I'm putting myself out there. I would love to do this. And if they're between your talk and somebody else's or something, they might give you the edge because they're like, we would love to encourage another first time speaker or something. So that's my thoughts on it, trying to put myself in their shoes on what would they want to see. How do I communicate that if it's anonymous, that I would be a good fit or whatever? What are your tips? You have any?
There's a article by Sarah May that I always point to people to, and I always read before I write a CFP. I'll link that in the show notes. I highly recommend that. We have an episode of Ruby for All, I think at least one, that we've talked to people about these. So I'll try to link that as well. To me, I want entertaining. Like, I go to RailsConf to be entertained, right? So I think it was interesting when you brought that up from the CFP review standpoint. I've never reviewed CFP, so I don't know how they view that. From my perspective, if someone has a strong character and that kind of comes across in the CFP, I would feel like that I would want that type of person at my conference. Those type of people join other people together. They entertain people. They make people laugh. And those are the types of talks that I really enjoy going to.
A good example of that is, I think, Brandon Weaver and his lemurs.
Absolutely.
It is genuinely like very creative and a character that he brings to the stage and stuff. And it's, of course, they want to bring that back. It's very unique and it's very interesting. And they're sort of paying you to speak. Sometimes they're actually paying you to speak and to travel there or whatever, but they're covering hotels and your conference ticket and stuff. So they need that. They want people to be going and excited about your talk. So if you can figure out how to get people excited, and some of that is the punny titles or something that's
right,
like captivating or something. Like for me personally, like I love when Tenderlove gets up there and it's here's how views are compiled from ERB to just plain old Ruby functions that, you know, are concatenating these return values of strings and whatever else. Like he's done some amazing talks on that, but half of his talk is like pure jokes, character, like hilarious stuff. And it makes everybody in the room laugh and whatever. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be that person. You know, it's sort of the same, like comparing to my screencasting. In the early days, I would get two types of feedback. It would be people like, oh my God, I didn't realize that's how this thing worked or how I could use it. And then the other feedback I would get was like, oh my God, dude, you're so monotone. This is the most boring video I've ever watched, yada, yada, yada. And it was like, well, they didn't learn anything from it. Yes, I might not be like very high energy or whatever because I recorded this damn video 20 times to get the final cut that worked. But if you've got the technical talk, at least good information, doesn't have to be technical information. But if you've got a good story or whatever else, you don't have to be a huge character. You don't have to be making jokes. You can be giving a serious talk about interesting things. There's space for every kind of personality up there. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to capture the audience because that's kind of why you're a speaker. And this is a good place to practice. Smaller RubyConfs or RailsConfs or whatever. Go to RailsConf, submit a lightning talk. Do that every conference you go to just for practice. Go talk at meetups, whatever. Get some practice if you're not confident enough to go immediately and make your RailsConf or Rails World your first CFP. Because those are in high demand and there are hundreds of submissions, but a very limited amount of talks that can be accepted. But there's always tons of spots for lightning talks and stuff. Those usually turn out to be good speakers, that done some practice.
My biggest piece of advice, I was reading like an article from Apple today about technical writing and UX writing. And at the very bottom, it was like, what is the best advice you could give someone? And it was like, get feedback from other people. That is the best writing advice you can ever receive, or that you can do, is get feedback from other people. That is how you improve writing. So that's how you improve the way you speak. There's also a ton of tools out there now that can like analyze the way you speak or help you practice speaking well. Like I'm running one right now. So there's all sorts of things you can do to enhance that and practice that. But yeah, feedback from other people, I feel like, is the best thing you can get.
When I was doing my Rails World talk for last year, for me personally, to feel comfortable up on stage, like I pretty much need the talk to be memorized. Because if I get nervous up on stage, I kind of just, my mind goes blank and I'm like, I don't know what to talk about, or I don't remember what I was going to say. So for me, like I had to practice enough times just to more or less memorize it where I could give it a free form. And that was very helpful. But I had practiced that 15 times, giving the entire talk in front of Andrea and Jason and my wife and a bunch of people, Colin and Kent, and just making sure that I could keep their attention for 30 minutes. And then also, like, Jason's been doing Rails for as long as I have, or longer, or whatever. Did he learn anything from that? Because if he did, that's great, because I know I have stuff that beginners learn from. But if I have stuff that I know that like staff engineers picked up a thing or two, then great. Because now my talk is not just for beginners. Because at Rails World, it was like, there's 2 tracks. They're either in your talk or somebody else's or the hallway. So you have a pretty broad audience. You're not in the junior track and just talking about career advice where you can expect that's the specific skill level or something. This was like, man, it feels like I need to raise the bar on my talk. So then I reorganized it a whole bunch of ways. Turned out that I was like, I'll go do a bunch of Rails features that have been here forever that are just kind of obscure that you might not know about. And then guess what? Here's a bunch of new stuff that came out in Rails 7.1 today or whatever. And these are things that even if you've been using Rails for the past 15 years, you probably haven't spent a ton of time looking at what comes out today. This is the future stuff. So no matter what, you're going to learn something new here. And that was helpful. And that's stuff that you can apply to your outline as well when you're like, you may need to plan out a lot of your talk ahead of time to make a good CFP. You might also be able to wing it and kind of say, and I think that's kind of how mine was. It was like, I'm going to do this talk about Rails features you might not know. I don't know exactly what's going to be in here, but I can talk about these general things. And I think they accepted me on that. And then I was able to flesh it out and find the details. But if you need to sell your talk in a CFP better, it can help to go through those details ahead of time, spend more time up front, and then you have a really good outline that hits on all these interesting things. And when they read it, they're like, wow, this person's prepared, which is a good sign of confidence that if they pick you, you will show up prepared. They also don't hold your hand or do anything. They say you're accepted. You show up that day with your laptop and you plug it in and you give your talk. You can go ask for more help and whatever from people and make sure that you have enough practice and whatever, but it's up to you to ask for that help once you get accepted too. Because otherwise they're like, all right, we expect you to do, you said you were going to do, so good luck. And it can feel a little scary.
I very much hope to see you on the conference track this year. And I have a feeling we will, maybe, at least to some.
I've got one in Australia, but you probably won't be there.
Unfortunately.
But we'll see on, I don't know when, I know not all of them, like Rails closes maybe Sunday. it's a little while until Rails World closes. But those are open early because they're really looking to get a lot of submissions and pick through them. And so we'll see. I submitted to Blue Ridge Ruby, Brighton Ruby, Ruby Australia, RailsConf, and Rails World. And I think those will be the ones that I don't know. I may submit something to RubyConf, but we'll see. That one's not until later, so I'm not.
Right.
It's not really on my radar, my Ruby radar yet. Got him.
Funny.
So,
all right,
man. It's good catching up. Good ranting.
It was a good rant day.
Yes. We'll rant you next week.
Absolutely. Catch you then.